What is up, boys and girls? Welcome to TVET Tutorials. My name is Doc and I am back. Yes, I am back with another video for you guys. Right, so the first point that I want to talk about is wage and benefit dispute, right? So exactly how do wages and benefit disputes particularly contribute towards conflict? Disagreements over wages, salary increases, bonuses, benefits such as healthcare or retirement plan, and compensation structures can lead to conflicts between employees and employers or among workers, right? So there's a reason why your salary or a worker's salary is confidential, right? It is because if a lot of people know about it, it might cause conflict. You understand? So things like that, and also if an employee comes to you as an HR manager and asks for a salary increase, right, and the company determines that, you know what, it is actually impossible for now to give out increases, that can lead to conflict. You understand? So that is how that point can contribute to conflict. If there is a disagreement between the employer and the employees or amongst employees themselves, in that whole sphere, it will definitely cause conflict, right? So if you understand this, you are able to put measures in place as an HR manager or as an employer to minimize or avoid these conflicts, which is why companies have policies like annual salary increases and stuff like that. You understand? They would basically say to employees that every year we are basically going to increase your salary maybe by this much. You understand? So that is how employers are able to minimize conflict in that whole sphere. The next point is working conditions, right? Disputes related to working conditions, including safety concerns, workload, work hours, and physical environment, can be a source of conflict, right? So if you take an employee and you put them in an environment that is not safe, chances are they are going to be in some sort of disagreement with the employer. Understand? There's going to be conflict. Understand? There's definitely going to be disagreement, right? If you tell someone that they are going to work long hours, crazy long hours with few rest breaks, there's going to be conflict. You understand? Which is why employers draft contracts to say, okay, you are going to work 9 hours a day. You are going to have maybe 30-minute lunch break or 1 hour lunch break and stuff like that. You understand? Negotiating terms to sort of like minimize the chances of there being conflict or there being some sort of misunderstanding. You understand? And then another point is discrimination and harassment. This one is very important. Discrimination or harassment based on factors like race, gender, age, or disability can lead to conflicts and legal challenges. Now, in the work environment, we need to understand that discrimination and harassment is strictly forbidden. It is strictly frowned upon. You understand? So if you put an employee in an environment where they feel discriminated against or harassed, or even if you do not necessarily have to put them in that environment, if they find themselves in that environment, it will definitely cause conflict. You understand? And it needs to be resolved, right? So things like again, management strictly relies on procedures, policies, and stuff like that, to sort of like tackle all these little challenges that might possibly arise. For an example, if we have a policy on discrimination and harassment, that can reduce the chances of there being a conflict or disagreement about such things, about discrimination or having an employee being discriminated against, right? So if you have a rule that says discrimination is not allowed, you know that you are actively minimizing or taking away the chances of there being conflict. You understand? So another point is union and management relations, right? Tensions between labor unions and management, often related to conflict, collective bargaining rather, contract negotiations and strikes, can result in conflicts, right? Which is true because we see this happen quite often. If a company maybe is unable to reach an agreement with a union about an employee's salary increase, employees will go on strike. You understand? And that is conflict. You understand? So things like that, when management and unions fail to reach an agreement, it can cause conflict. You understand? And like I said, we've seen this happen multiple times. right? So another point we have is job security, right? Job security is also another great contributor in conflicts, because if as an employee I do not feel as if my job is secured, I will definitely be at odd with the employee with my employer, because now I do not know if I am going to be employed next month. You understand? However, if you give me a surety that, you know what, you have a permanent contract, things like that, then you give me job security. You're giving me job security. You're telling me that, you know what, rest assured, your job is secured. You will still have a job next month, and chances of there being conflict about that, they are very minimal. You understand? So another point is diversity and inclusion, right? Issues related to diversity, inclusion, and representation within the workplace can lead to conflicts, as employees may feel marginalized or underrepresented, right? So again, this is another point that we have seen constantly, right? So if say for an example, a company only hires men, you understand, it speaks to the fact of inclusion, or it speaks to the matter of inclusion. Why are they not including females? You understand? That can cause conflict. You understand? So things like that, they need to be addressed, which is why companies come up with policies like maybe recruiting 60% women and 40% men, or recruiting a particular group of people, just so that there's a sense of inclusion. Everyone feels included within the organization. It also speaks to the point of discrimination and harassment. It's more or less the same, however a little bit different, because the inclusion is more diverse. You understand? So the next point we have is communication issues, right? So poor communication between employees and employers, or among co-workers, can result in misunderstandings and conflicts, right? Again, this is something that contributes greatly to or one of the factors that contributes greatly to conflicts is basically communication issues. If an organization doesn't have a solid communication structure, chances are there's gonna be a lot of misunderstandings, which we all agree that cause conflicts, right? If there's a misunderstanding, that means there's a conflict, there's a disagreement. You understand? So that initially turns the whole situation into a conflict, right? So back to my example, if an organization does not have a solid communication structure, if the organization does not state that there is a communication structure and this is how it works, then chances are, I mean, imagine if you are an employee in safety department trying to communicate with an employee in the human resources department, and the communication structure is not solid. Say for an example, there are no telephone lines, there are no emails whatsoever. What happens when the HR officer is not in the office? Everyone has to wait, rather than when the company allows employees to communicate maybe through a platform, where if that HR officer is not in office, you know that, okay, you can get on this platform maybe by email and get into contact with them, and they are able to understand your communication. You understand? So the next point is grievance handling, right? So the handling of employee grievances, including disputes over discipline, termination, or other workplace issues, can lead to conflicts if not managed effectively, right? So if an employee comes to you as an HR officer or as an HR manager with a grievance and you fail to manage it effectively, that will give rise to conflict. I mean, if I come to you as an employee, you are my employer, I am your employee, and I come to you, I explain to you that I am not happy with maybe my work environment. I need a new office. It's not comfortable for me. If I feel that I am not heard, there's gonna be disagreements. You understand? I'm gonna feel discriminated against. That's gonna give conflict. You understand? Not to mind the fact itself alone, the fact that I have a grievance and it is being ignored, that will cause conflict. So now again, it goes back to what I was saying. You have conflict over conflict piling up. Eventually you end up having issues that are difficult for you to resolve because they are just so much. You understand? And then another point we have is personality conflicts, right? Sometimes conflicts arise due to personal differences and clashes among co-workers or between employees and their supervisors, which is true. I mean, at the end of the day, we are all human beings. We cannot take away the fact that we have our own personalities wherever we go, whether we are in the working environment or we are in our own personal spaces. We all still have our personalities. And if I go into a working environment where I see maybe I don't see eye to eye with a particular employee, whenever we are in the same room, chances are there's going to be conflict. You understand? It's just simply for the fact that I am a human being. I have my own personality. That particular employee is their own human being. They have their own personalities, and we have our differences. That gives conflict. Even if it is personal, it still needs to be managed. The fact that it is all happening in the work environment makes it work conflict. You understand? So it still needs to be resolved, right? So things like that also need to be taken into consideration. And then another point we have is change management, right? So resistance to organizational change, such as restructuring, technology implementations, or policy changes, can cause conflict. Now, think of a scenario where a company brings in technology to replace the workforce. There's obviously going to be tension, you understand? There's obviously going to be conflict, because that sort of like speaks to the workforce or the employees' job security, which is again another conflict arising. And if they are left unmanaged or unresolved, the organization will will end up having these issues that are just too much for it to resolve. You understand? So another point is lack of fairness, right? So perceived unfairness in promotions, assignments, or other workplace decisions can lead to conflicts, which is true. Something that we also see happen time and time. If maybe someone gets a promotion that they didn't necessarily work hard for, or someone gets employed and they don't have the necessary qualifications, whereas someone within the company has the qualifications, all those things, they can lead to conflict. You understand? If an organization hires someone from outside of the country, when someone inside the country has the particular skill or qualification, that can cause conflict. You understand? So things like that needs to be taken into consideration of. Another point is legal and regulatory compliance, right? So conflict can emerge when organizations or employees are not in compliance with labor law, regulations, or contractual agreements. Now, scenario. As an employee, we signed a contract to say that I will work 9 hours every day from Monday to Friday. When I get to work, I only work 6 hours and then I knock off. That is me breaching our contract, and that sort of like it definitely falls under the category of legal and regulatory compliance, and failing to resolve that or failing to address that will definitely lead to conflict, because as my employer, you will definitely have an issue with that, right? We agreed that I will be working 9 hours, but then I keep on working 6 hours, which is not fair. You understand? So such things, again, they need to be taken into consideration of, and they need to be addressed as soon as you notice them coming up, right? Because you don't want to have such conflicts, especially with third parties. If maybe the labor department is requesting for certain documents from the employer, and the employer doesn't have those documents, that can cause conflict. You understand? And it's conflict that can come and affect employees, because if, say for an example, the labor department decides to close that company until they resolve their issues, that means employees are going to sit at home. They won't be working, meaning they won't be getting paid, and that's going to give rise to another conflict. You understand? So that is that. The initial thing that I want us to understand in everything that has been said today is that it is very important to understand what causes conflict, especially in the work environment, seeing that you will be in that position where you will have to resolve conflict, where you will have to identify where could conflict possibly arise and how can you avoid that. It is very important to understand what causes conflict and how to avoid it, because chances are you will come across it. You will come across conflict more often in the work environment as you might believe, or as you might think you will. You understand? So that is that, Buffet. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this video and you still haven't subscribed, come on now. Click on the subscribe button, click on that bell icon so that you get instant notifications for every time we drop new content. You do not want to miss out. All the links to our socials are right up here. Make sure you do check them out. If you want us to cover a specific video, you can put in video requests and we will make it happen. Now, anything other than that, Bafeto, as I always say, from myself and my team at TVET Tutorials, adios.